Grace and peace. Acts 2:17 says, "In the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all people." God bless you. This is Dr. J from the Fellowship of Women Clergy, thanking you for being with us as we celebrate 10 wonderful years in ministry. Thank you for being with us on Sundays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. as we have some powerful preaching women come to give messages based on women in the Bible. Hear our next speaker.
Hello, my friends. My name is Reverend Tamika Holder. I am so excited to be able to join you in participating in these 10-minute messages as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Fellowship of Women Clergy. Hats off and kudos to Reverend Dr. Kimberly Johnson for your diligence in staying steadfast and fulfilling the work that God has given you. And thank you for your commitment to the care of those who care for others. For my sharing with you this day, I want to talk about the story of Jephthah's daughter. As we enter this preaching moment, I am reminded of a situation in my life that occurred about 6 years ago. As I was out with some friends, I received a notification telling me that I should pray for my cousin's wife. When I got the full story of what had happened, I learned that my cousin and his wife had been in a car accident and his wife was killed. See, a woman had been out drinking and decided to drive. She rear-ended my cousin's vehicle, pushing them into an intersection, causing a multi-car collision. Her poor decision-making caused a family to lose their daughter, a husband to lose his wife, a daughter to be left without her mother, and so many left without a friend whom they cherished. Have you ever had an experience where you were forced to deal with the consequences of another person's decision making? Maybe the situation wasn't as drastic or as dire as the one that I just mentioned. Nonetheless, you were left annoyed, frustrated, disappointed, hurt, or downright angry because you were negatively impacted by someone else's poor choices. Maybe you can relate to being left to have to pick up the pieces. Maybe you were left to figure out a way to move forward, new ways of being, or how to heal, how to sort out your emotions so that anger and sorrow and disappointment don't turn to hatred and bitterness. If you can relate to any of these experiences, you might be able to identify with Jephthah's daughter. This little known and frequently discussed woman's story can be found in the 11th chapter of the book of Judges. In your free time, I want to encourage you to read the story in entirety. But for this preaching moment, we are introduced to Jephthah. He's been summoned to lead the fight against enemies of Israel. During his time of fighting, he makes a rash vow to the Lord and says that if he is given victory over the Ammonites, whatever comes out of the door to meet him when he returns in triumph, he will sacrifice as a burnt offering. Jephthah is victorious and he returns home. The first person he sees is his daughter. She is his only child. And when he sees her, he is distraught. He is broken. He is undone. Jephthah's daughter simply replies, "You have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised." This young girl, like so many women in the Bible, is introduced to us not by her name, but by her relationship to her closest male relative, who in this instance is her father. I'm sure she had a name. Maybe it was Sarah or Mary or Selah or Ada, but we do not learn that in this text. We are introduced to her simply as Jephthah's daughter. Even more, when we meet her, she's on the wrong side of a bad decision made by her father. Some of us too are familiar with this scenario. We are acquainted with having major decisions made about our life by someone else outside of ourselves, specifically by a man or maybe men. We can relate to feeling like we don't have any autonomy or agency. We know about having our value or our worth being defined by our proximity to a male. Maybe we are known as so and so's daughter, or the wife of such and such's sister. We know about having someone else's statements or behaviors negatively impact us, causing us to lose out on opportunities, or maybe causing us to experience a restricted quality of life. We know about wanting to just be able to have our own unique identity. I want to remind us today, sisters, that you and I are so much more than the men to which we are related or the ones that we associate with. We are bigger than someone else's thoughts or imaginations of us. We are much more than a role or position or even something that someone thinks might be a good fit for us. We are broader and bolder than being a sacrificial lamb, and much more than being the back on which someone else builds their bridge or their ministry. We are indeed fearfully and wonderfully made. We are made in God's image, that God has a purpose and a plan for your life and for mine. That this plan is tailor made specifically for us, and it includes and encompasses the gifts and the talents that our divine designer has placed within us. We are not made to hang out in the background or to be in someone else's shadow. We were made for the foreground. We are more, we are so much more sometimes than even what we think or imagine of ourselves. God has made us to be so much more. I also, in this preaching moment, wonder, like Professor Carla Bombeck, where was this girl's mother and where were the female elders? Why didn't the community do anything to intervene in the fulfillment of this ridiculous vow? This highlights for me that standing up for and protecting our girls and our women is not just a familial, but it's also a community responsibility. According to the Washington Post, nearly 250 women, including 48 Black women, have been shot and killed by police since the newspaper began tracking police-involved shootings in 2015. According to Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, Black girls as young as 7 and Black women into their 90s have been killed by the police, and for a long time, nobody was talking about it. Far too often, our beautiful brown and Black baby girls are parentified and adultified. They are more likely to be abused, abandoned, and left unprotected. Black girls are hypersexualized and viewed as loud, sassy, and attitudinal when they are just demonstrating age-appropriate behaviors. I want to remind us today that our girls and we as women are worthy and deserving of love, nurture, and protection. That we as family, whether that's biological or by virtue of sharing the same air, are called to look out for each other. We are challenged to seek the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health of one another. We are indeed our sister's keeper. Audre Lorde once wrote, "I'm not free while any other woman is unfree, even when her shackles are different from my own." So today, may we feel affirmed that our identity is not tied up in the men who we are closest to, but are in connection with the one whose image and likeness that we are made, the one who loves us, the one who is for us, and the one who wants us to thrive. May we find our voice, and if we've already found it, may we use it to speak up for ourselves and for our sisters, to advocate for our wants and our needs, so that we all together might be free. Amen.